All right, so today I am here with Laura Koesterer, and Laura is the Branch Kids Director at the Branch Community Church. So really excited to chat today, Laura.
Very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So was kind of curious, Laura, could you just tell us a bit about your background, like what called you into ministry and how did you find your current role at the branch?
Well, let's see. Ministry as a whole, I grew up at a non-denominational church. And throughout all of my years, elementary, middle school, high school, my favorite memories were with my small group leaders in elementary. So once I got to be in high school, that's when our church allowed students to start serving in the children's ministry. And so that's what I started to do with my dad. I served all through high school, all through college. I went close by. I didn't live at home, but I went close by to where our home church was. I served so it was 8 years total. I moved down to Florida for a year to pursue an internship. And when nothing panned out after that, I moved back to the Chicago area, which is where we're based. And they had an opening in the children's ministry. And I just took a stab at it, never dreaming that I would ever be hired back to the church and the ministry that had impacted my life so much. But God had ordained that I would go and serve in that position. And so I started working in ministry pretty much out of college on staff. But I've been serving since '96. So been in the children's ministry game for a long time. I was on staff for about 10 years. I met my husband while we were working together. He was also part of children's ministry. And we got married, and a couple of years down the road, we had our first child. And after she was born, I took a step back from staff, but I never stopped serving. We never stopped attending. Now, fast forward another 10-ish years. We have 3 kids. My youngest is 2.5. My oldest is 9.5. The middle one, if people are wondering, she's almost 5, and she's our Spitfire. But about a year and a half ago, in the midst of the pandemic, we had moved churches 4 years ago. And the church we now attend is much smaller than our original church. It's about 400 to 500 attenders. And their children's ministry used to average about 100, 125 kids a weekend. So we started attending there. Pandemic shut everything down. And then halfway through the pandemic, their children's director transitioned off staff. So they pursued me, knowing my background, knowing that I had worked for a long time with kids, and asked God if now was the time to get back in. And he said yes. So here I am.
Awesome. Well, that is a spectacular story. So thank you for sharing, Laura. And yeah, you never know where your ministry may take you. You know, you're going from Chicago, Florida, back to Chicago, different area, church in the Chicago area. So yeah, don't know what is in store there, but it's always good wherever it goes. And so, you know, given your, you know, range of experience here, kids ministry, like, today it looks almost like it entirely differently from, you know, 96, or, you know, when you said you started, it's like, okay, lots have changed, the core stuff's remained the same. So what are some kind of key things you do? Like, what tips do you have for folks that want to just create an engaging kids ministry?
Honestly, I think the biggest resource, and you can be in any church, any size, anywhere in America, your biggest resource to have the biggest impact with your ministry are your volunteers. Because the people who show up every week, the people who get to know the families, who learn the kids' names, who send the postcards, they are that number one connect point for kids and for parents. And if you build yourself a real strong volunteer base, if you pour into them, then they will pour into the families that you are trying to serve. And the dividends from that is going to be obviously we'll never see the full impact. But just back to my story, the whole reason I adored children's ministry was because of the dedication of two volunteers in particular who walked with me from my first leader was from kindergarten to second grade, and then my second leader was third to fifth grade. She stayed with us the whole time. So Miss Kathy, Miss Carol, I'm here because of you.
Awesome. Well, that is outstanding. And yeah, people, it's really hard to, like you said, you can't really visualize the impact you have in kids ministry, especially. And it is a ripple effect that has, it's just, you can't measure it. If you can build a solid faith foundation in a kid's life, you may not get to see the dividends of that 20 years later when they're an adult and then they begin to raise kids in a faith-filled home. So what are some tips you kind of have, since volunteers are so important, for recruiting and retaining them? Like, what's your top tip in kind of each of those categories?
Ooh, excellent question. That's still a code I'm trying to crack, especially post-pandemic. I'm sure everybody's in that same boat with you have those who are gung-ho, let's get back in the game, and you probably have a bigger majority of who are just a little bit more cautious, which is perfectly fine. So meeting people where they're at for sure. But in our church specifically, we've had such a large turnover, and the people who are attending regularly are newer faces to our congregation. So a lot of them don't know the history. They don't know all of the ministry things that we do. So I have tried to position myself personally in avenues where I can make a connect, specifically with newer families, so they can start to associate myself and my face with our ministry, but then getting to know them, getting to know their larger families, asking for kind of a first serve, or if you're a parent, I know not all parents like to serve with their kids, because one of the reasons they enjoy coming to church is because some of them can get a break. Totally get that and want to honor that, but not outside the realm of possibility to say, hey, would you mind giving our regular volunteers a break? We're building up our volunteer corps. Would you be willing to serve once a month for the next 6 months, and like have a firm deadline on how long you're asking for them to commit to? Also, young adult groups, if you can tap into the young adult population, even the student ministry population, a lot of them, they just need a little nudge in a direction of where they might be able to spend their time. But vision is key, making sure that everybody's aware of, why do we exist? Are we here to babysit? Totally not. That's always the worst thing anybody can ever say. Oh, just drop off your kids, we'll watch them while you go to church. No. We are here to partner with parents to help lay a foundation. We have programming for kids just as we have programming for adults. But yeah, so casting that vision, and then for retaining volunteers, just continually remind them of why they're there and what they're doing and the impact that they have. Observing them while they're interacting with kids. Hey, Nancy, I saw you handle Asher when he was having kind of a hard afternoon. Way to go. Way to redirect him and have a great time in the pre-K room. Sending little gift cards. I know not all budgets can handle that, but handwritten notes go a long, long way. So just remembering to fill that vision bucket for your volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could not agree that more there. Handwritten notes, it takes 5 minutes. It makes someone's day. So definitely worth it there. And like how you mentioned, hey, this isn't just like a hour-long daycare. We have programming. We're going to minister to your kids. What tips would you have for someone, kind of a kidsman leader, to kind of sell that broader vision to their leadership team? It's like, hey, if you don't feel like you're doing enough programming, and you feel like, candidly, you are on the more of like just, hey, this is, Sunday daycare thing, what steps would you encourage someone to take to get the ball rolling towards, partnering with parents?
And sorry, just for clarification purpose, at like vision casting to the staff team so that it can be a concerted effort from the church, or vision casting to the congregation? or both?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's roll both.
So for the staff team, because everybody has kind of a different kind of buy-in, I always come at it like, okay, imagine your kids, your grandkids are coming to our church. What kind of experience would you hope they have? Do you want them to just come into a room of chaos and play with a bunch of toys for an hour and 15 minutes? Or would you like for them to come into a community where they are known by their leaders, they're known by the other kids that attend, and families can start making connections? Like, church is about community, and first and foremost, community with God, but also community with other people who are seeking to strengthen their own relationships with God. So I would say the second is hopefully the answer everybody would say, and then say, okay, if this is true, then we need to get to this point, and I need help recruiting volunteers. I need time to train those volunteers. I need resources to pour back into those volunteers. Because again, like, curriculum is great. Find a curriculum that speaks to the values of your church, of your ministry. But first and foremost, it comes from who is executing it. You could have the best curriculum in the world, but if you have people who either don't show up or don't understand your vision, then that curriculum is not going to be communicated in the way that you are envisioning it. So it all comes back to the people and the purpose for why we're there. And then as far as vision casting to the congregation, it's again just reiterating, why are you there? What do you do? I try at every opportunity to incorporate the vision for our ministry at our church in emails, in print pieces, when they do announcements from the stage. And I don't know how many people are sick of it yet. We have it printed on the back of our t-shirts for our volunteers. Awesome. But our vision is partnering with parents to help kids meet God, know Jesus, and grow in relationship. And then we have those 3 keywords: meet, know, grow, in a circle on the back of our t-shirts. I'm not wearing one today, otherwise I'd show you, but
all good.
Yeah. Awesome. So hopefully those words are in front of everybody. And if they don't know, they can say, hey, why do you have those words on the back of your t-shirt? Well, let me tell you. And then hopefully they can share that vision, and it just trickles down.
Absolutely. Yeah. The marketing per se of it, the meet, know, grow, having that everywhere. It sounds almost cheesy, but it works, and it's something that it's easy to do. Just leave it in your email template, leave it on your digital signage slide, keep it on the t-shirts. It's going to be there, and keep reminding people. And so meet, know, grow, that also probably kind of summarizes your goals as a church. So what are some of your right now short-term and long-term goals in your ministry?
Let's see. That's a really good question. So short-term goals for sure is to beef up our volunteer corps. And not just in the children's ministry, all around the church. And I'm sure that is the goal for every church right now, bouncing back from the pandemic. Kind of a unique thing that we have seen is probably since March, our attendance has been really increasing. And it's not the fact that we have more people coming. It's the fact that we have people coming more frequently. So pre-pandemic, I would say for our families, at least, because that we were able to track numbers easier then, we would have on average 1 family attending twice a month. And that was kind of the regular. These days for our church, we have probably 45 to 50% of our families are 3 to 4 weekends a month. Ooh. And now I know we just hit summer, so our numbers are going to change again. But the fact that frequency has been happening, and a lot of young families, so it's pre-K and under that we have coming so frequently. It's been really great to see. So knowing that we have a little more impact, a little more traction with those younger families, a goal being, hey, let's start doing some parenting workshops where we can hit these young families early to help try and get them to understand how they are laying a foundation. Because that piece, I don't think has quite been figured out by a lot of people either, helping parents feel equipped to have spiritual conversations, to engage in what we perceive a meaningful spiritual way. It's not rocket science, but for some reason, it's just so intimidating as a parent. We have so many different messages coming our way. And how do you talk about God the best and the safest? And let's not damage our kids' understanding of the Bible. And I didn't go to seminary. I'm not a Bible scholar, so I'm just not going to talk about it. Totally natural inclinations. But if you noticed from our vision statement, the first part does say partnering with parents, because as uncomfortable and unknown as it is to have spiritual conversations with kids, parents are the number one influencer, and kids are watching. So if you're coming to church, they're seeing that. They see that you want to invest in your own relationship with God. But then at home, if they see you reading your Bible, if they see you going to Bible study, all of those little nuggets help build into your child's concept of what it means to have a relationship with God. And wanting to bring that out a little bit easier for parents to kind of digest small things they do every day or can do every day. And it's not intimidating to help their kids know God.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, that is probably the best one thing to start with. It's like, hey, it doesn't have to be rocket science here. You don't need to, lay out a multi-bullet point plan to get parents to talk to kids about it. God's just, hey, if they see you doing something that, that's a great start. And so that is spectacular. So a lot of great tips today, Laura. So really, really appreciate that. And I'm kind of curious, what just kind of other advice do you have for ministry leaders?
Oh, you are doing great. We have a brave new world that we are figuring out right now. And no matter how you're choosing to attack is totally the wrong word. Please forgive me. It's the first word that came to mind. However, you're choosing to engage, right? Engage in this new world that we're in post-pandemic, where we have those who are still nervous about re-engaging, those who might have become apathetic during the pandemic, those who have completely tossed out everything that has been familiar. What you are doing still matters, probably now more than ever. And adapting to try and meet your families where they're at, it feels kind of like trying to eat an elephant. But my friend always says the best way to do it is one bite at a time. And you will start to see movement. You will start to see things shifting and changing, and tapping into God, who put you in that position. That is your power source, your energy source, your direction for everything you do. So thank you for answering that call, for being there for your families, for your kids. I'm cheering you on from Chicago.
Absolutely. And likewise from Indianapolis, the Orange Conference, we handed out t-shirts that said, keep going on them. And, keep going, you're doing great. It doesn't always feel like that. But, if it was easy, it'd be easy. Anything worthwhile is not easy. So absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much today, Laura. I really appreciate the advice. I know it'll help a lot of, family ministry folks listening to this. So glad you could share so much. And Laura, offset, anyone listening is cheering you on for Chicago. So keep going, and you're doing great. Absolutely.